Hi guys, it's Leanne. Today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about how I was diagnosed with breast cancer and what that sort of journey has been like for me. So back in November of 2021, I went for a routine mammogram and I was shocked to find that there was an area that they were concerned with. So they had me come back the next day to the imaging clinic and they did an ultrasound the next day. They found a mass, a small mass, and then a cluster. The mass and the cluster showed to have calcifications in them, which sort of like amped up the concern for what type of tissue this was and a need to further characterize sort of what was going on with my breast. So I ended up going for biopsy, and that biopsy took place, I think it was like 2 weeks after that. Basically what happened during the biopsy was they laid me flat on a table. I worked my arm through a hole. I worked my left breast through that same hole. They sort of positioned a mammogram x-ray unit below me. They raised the bed up so that they could have enough working area below me. There were 2 or 3 nurses, doctors in the room. The one nurse that stood right next to me, talking to me the entire time, was incredibly helpful. It was very calming. She was very reassuring, and I felt really, really relaxed during the whole procedure. They used a device to freeze me that's not like a single injection. It was almost like a little pin cushion that had like 5 or 6 needles on it, and then they sort of like press it into my breast and then deliver the local anesthetic that way. Which made me instantly comfortable, and all I could really feel and sense was the pressure of them working in my breast area. They made a small incision, they went in, they grabbed samples of each of the clusters. There was a lot of running back and forth from the microscope back to my breast, adjusting the x-ray equipment, taking a picture, making sure they were in the right area, taking another sample. All in total, it was about 45 minutes to an hour that I was in the biopsy room. They didn't even sew me up. They just used steri strips and sealed the incision shut and sent me on my merry way. And then it was a week later that I followed up with my GP, and I sat in her office and she said to me, and I feel really bad for my doctor because I know going forward she'll probably have perfected her delivery on these types of things. But in that moment, she told me that my breast pathology had not come back yet, but that she had received a letter stating that my mammogram had taken place, that the ultrasound had taken place, that the biopsy had taken place, and the pathology was sent but had not come back yet. As she then scrolled further down in the Netcare system, she identified that there was indeed sort of a return result from the pathology, and she quickly spoke and said, "You've come back free of cancer," only to then literally 10 seconds later say, "Wait a second, hold on, let me read further. Actually, you have breast cancer." Yeah. I went from hands together, looking up to the sky, wanting to fall on my knees in gratitude that I had somehow dodged this, only to be ripped back to reality in that moment and find out, hey, actually I do have breast cancer. So the shock was instant, and needless to say, I was very upset, very scared, very frightened. And all of a sudden, a lot of information was coming my way, what type of cancer it was. I asked for copies of my pathology, and come to find out that I have DCIS, which is ductal carcinoma in situ. So the good and bad news, the good news is that ductal carcinoma in situ likes to stay in place. The in situ portion of that name is exactly that. It likes to stay in place. So ductal carcinoma is a non-aggressive, non-invasive type of cancer. Now, my pathology report showed that I have high-grade cancer, which means that I have a larger number of cancer cells, and so the quantity is larger and the size is larger. There are also intermediate and low grades. And I also have nuclear type or grade 3, which is comedo type. All of this means a lot to the pathologists and the treatment coordinators and the follow-up care doctors. Doesn't mean a lot to me and didn't mean a lot to me at that time. But basically it just helps determine what type of treatment and surgery will be required. So after that, I went and met with the breast surgeon. I went and met with one in particular on first referral from my GP. And after meeting with him and discussing what DCIS is and what the different surgical options were, we quickly discovered that I really was narrowed down to really only one option based on my history of Hodgkin's lymphoma and having received radiation therapy in the past. If you want to know more about that, I did another video on Hodgkin's lymphoma and how it's more than likely the cause of my breast cancer to this day due to the radiation therapy that I received. So if you want to check that out and you want to know more about that, go back to my last video. But in terms of the comfort levels with this particular surgeon, I did not feel comfortable with what he was recommending, and I really wanted a second opinion. So I went back to my GP and I asked her to refer me to a specific doctor in another health region that my sister-in-law had had experience with and had had a double mastectomy through. So I went and met with him. I immediately knew that this was the person that I wanted to go forward with, and he became my breast surgeon, and we decided in that moment that I would have a bilateral mastectomy. And again, more on that in the last video that I did. So if you want to know the reasons why I'm doing bilateral mastectomy and being so aggressive with my surgery, go back and check that video out. In terms of who he works with, because I'm choosing to do a breast reconstruction at the same time as my bilateral mastectomy, I was given the name of the doctor, the plastics doctor that my breast surgeon works with in tandem. And I was told that I have the dream team. So I am very happy. I then went on to meet with the plastics doctor. And although I'm not exactly sure how comfortable I am with just with my team, I'm happy with my breast surgeon. I wish that my plastic surgeon was a better communicator. I've had a couple of questions that I followed up with, and I just feel like the time between asking the question and getting the response back could have been tightened up a little bit, given that my timelines are so tight. And I may have chosen in back when I was first introduced to my breast surgeon and learned of his plastics partner, I may have requested a second opinion at that point, and then may have even brought in my own plastics doctor at that point. But at this stage of the game, I am 2 days away from surgery, and I am definitely going ahead with my breast surgeon's plastics partner. Now we'll see how it goes. I do believe that I am going to have the tissue expanders placed first, followed by an implant exchange surgery months down the road after my incisions have healed fully and my doctor is happy with the progress and my expanders have been filled to a level that I am happy and pleased with. So more on that, I'll definitely post a video of the progress. And also I'll let you guys know how the pathology goes, because once the surgery is done, they'll send all of my breast tissue off to pathology and they'll determine whether or not more surgery will be required to remove even more cancer. And then let's just cross our fingers that that doesn't happen, and any other further treatment that they would recommend, be it chemotherapy, be it hormone therapy, will be known sort of at that time. So 2 weeks post-op is when I'll know more. As far as the rest of my breast cancer journey, well, it's really just begun. So there's not a lot more that I can really report on at this point, other than I might do another video regarding how I'm feeling, what my fears are, what my questions have been, what the answers to those questions have been thus far. And if you have any questions or comments, please put them below. I'll make sure to answer any questions or comments that you might have, and hope I can be of assistance and be help to anybody that's going through this process and needs somebody to relate to. And yeah, so as usual, I'll see you all in the next video, and take care of yourselves.